Welcome to the Log Time Podcast. We dug through our list of mystery garbage and came out covered in filth and awkward memories, but holding an odd gem. Zaregoto, an anime as Shaft Studios as you can possibly get without actually just being Monogatari, though it's from the same author. So let's get weirdly metaphorical and break our necks head tilting as we figure out this mystery.
So, I think probably the most accurate thing I can say about Zaregoto, or the Kubikiri cycle, or whatever fucking name you want to call this.
Let's just go with
this
Zaregoto.
Anime. Yeah. The most accurate thing I can say about this is that this is definitely a Nisioisin Shaft product.
Yes.
It is definitely that.
It is definitely that. Why do you say that? I mean, it's obviously Shaft because, well, I mean, you can look at it and just know.
So, okay, so I say this because if I had no context for this series and someone showed me the first episode and told me that it was a side story of the Monogatari series with a completely different cast of characters, I would have fucking believed you.
If someone told me that even after watching all 8 episodes, I would have fucking believed him.
Yeah, because the thing about Zaregoto is, you know, I think this came out 2016, October 2016,
into 2017.
Into 2017.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is definitely a more recent work by Shaft. And it shows because they've definitely had time to refine, you know, like the head tilts,
the style,
and the weird ambient, like, visual shots, and the really just fantastic soundtrack and sound design.
Oh, yeah.
It is very clear that, you know, this has been a show done in the style of Monogatari, which is interesting because I know that the Kubikiri cycle, or the Zaregoto series rather, was a series of light novels that Nisioisin made, I think, before the Monogatari series.
Yes, it was his first light novel series, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting then that, you know, the stylistic choices that were visually and directorially given to this adaptation were so heavily influenced by the directorial decisions and everything else for the Monogatari series. Yeah. So I think it's very interesting to see how, you know, it's kind of almost worked like a bell curve in a weird way. I don't know. It's
Or you could say that it's come full circle, like a cycle.
All right, Kyle.
Oh my god, it's
that.
not me this time.
Yeah, we're starting off, you know, status quo. Someone had to do it, which is great. But so I think that the fact that it is so quickly identifiable as, you know, something indicative and something that is a product of Nisioisin and Shaft works very much in Zaregoto's favor.
I think so. Yeah, for anybody that's familiar with that type of thing, especially if they've seen Monogatari, it's like an immediate language that you just understand.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I feel as though if Zaregoto, you know, did not have this visual style and aesthetic, I legitimately don't know if I would have stuck with it.
As far as like the story goes, yeah, I think that's very much true. Is like it's hard to take a look at like what the actual plot is and say like, yeah, no, that's going to be really interesting for 8 episodes without at least a little bit of like style and flair to it.
Yeah,
well, I was just gonna say that like this kind of goes into something like that I was thinking when I was watching the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, man, I don't know anything about this. And then I watched the first episode and I was like, I still don't know anything about this. And I'm just like, I was really confused. I was like, what's this show even about? Like, and that's kind of funny because like, I mean, there's a whole thing like the main character says, his catchphrase is like that's nonsense or whatever, and I'm like,
yeah.
I mean that's legitimately what the show is. It's just a bunch of nonsense, like
yeah.
Which
there's like
interest.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
I was just gonna say that it's interesting in its own way. Like, so when you think of the definition of nonsense, it doesn't necessarily mean it's like disinteresting or uninteresting.
Yeah. Or that it's absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Which now it sounds like we're talking like characters from the show.
It just means that it's by definition nonsensical.
Yeah, which is, that's the show. It's just not what I expected it to be, and like, I think, and going back to what you were saying though, I think if you take any one part of the show away from it, it becomes not that. It just becomes something uninteresting. It doesn't become nonsensical, it becomes uninteresting.
Yeah.
Right.
And like Zaregoto is like such a this is like a fucking Jenga block tower that is precariously like positioned in such a way that it holds together, but kind of like you said, Matt, like if any one specific piece is missing from it, it's going to collapse and become, as you say, uninteresting.
Yeah.
Because so like for instance, I was very much like you, Matt, because I got through the whole first episode and I was like, okay, that was a first episode. I was interested in it simply because, partly because I trust Nisioisin to certain degrees,
right,
to make these very interesting and engaging interactions between characters, and so I was curious to see where it would go from there. And part of that was also just because of the stylistic decisions that Shaft did in putting this thing together. So, I mean, like, for instance, if this looked something like, I don't know, maybe if fucking... I'm trying to think of like even a specific studio that could do something like this, and that's the thing. I can't think of another studio that would put together a show like this. It seems unfathomable to me.
I feel like either they would have passed on it, or it would have been incredibly bland in style, because they would not have understood the same thing about Nisioisin Nisioisin.
Sure.
Yeah. So imagine if fucking Sunrise did this.
Okay.
Or something like that.
I mean, you could have literally named any studio, but yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You could say like
so like imagine if
K-Works
this looked
or
like
something.
Samurai. Yeah. Imagine if this looked like Samurai Flamenco, or something like that.
Yeah.
Would you all have stuck with this?
I wouldn't. I would have stuck with it because we're watching it for the podcast. But
okay. Outside of the vacuum of we're doing this for the fucking podcast. If you were out to watch this on your own,
I might have stuck
the
with
first
it
episode.
Because I know that it's only 8 episodes long. But even then, I would have been bored by like episode 3 or 4.
Okay, so here's kind of like what I'm thinking here. So like after my experience with the first episode, like I was still like confused what the show is going to be about. The fact that it went like the direction it did, I still am finding very strange. Like upon finishing it, I'm like, I can't believe that was a mystery show in disguise the whole time.
Well, I mean, it kind of always was a mystery show.
Yeah, a mystery about trying to figure out what it was about.
A little brutal, but okay.
I mean, I don't know. It's not the kind of show that if I saw the first episode of this, I think actually my real response when I finished it was, wow, that was really pretentious.
Man, you should see some of the reviews on my anime list. Holy shit.
Oh man, I'm sure
it's a real crap
It's
sheet.
just a repeat of that same word over and over again.
Like, yeah. It's like I don't know. I really did feel like the first episode was just so far out there. It's not like anything. It was so.
It gives you no context.
Yeah, there's no context for what the conversation is about, and like it's one of those things that and maybe this is just like a me personally thing. Like I already have a hard time with shows like we've watched in the past, like I don't know. I'm not really into like the
like
whole
Shinsekai Yori.
No, like that's fine, but I'm like stuff like I don't know, like Serial Experiments Lane or something. Like that's like it like when it starts to go too deep, like I feel like it's not enjoyable. Like it has to have like that mix of like enjoyable qualities along with intelligence.
Yeah, that particular thing just isn't really your shtick.
Right, and well, I think that this show, like, it does an okay job of balancing that, but the first episode I felt like was really heavy-handed in that way, and it was like a whole bunch of these like philosophical, like Zack's talked about in the past about like some problems with like Psycho-Pass 2, for instance, where it felt like it was more what did you say? It was about
it wanted to be about something and be smart, but in trying to do so, it showed how woefully inept it was at actually being smart or about something.
Yeah, and I don't know. I kind of got those sorts of vibes from the first episode because it didn't really do anything yet.
I think
yeah. So like the fact of the matter that we start this off in like this weird underwater chessboard world where we have like Ichan and our fucking like crazy world's greatest consultant having this bizarre philosophical conversation with no goddamn context, and then we're thrown into the whole here's a bunch of geniuses on a deserted island sort of thing.
Yeah,
it is such a sense of like whiplash to where if you had not read the synopsis of this before going into the show, you would very easily be like, what the fuck is this show supposed to actually be about?
See,
what is this?
I kind of had a little bit of a different take on the first episode, just because for me it was like I completely got the whole idea of like it's a bit of a whiplash going from this philosophical debate as the water is rising, but I mean it was a Shaft show and I knew that going in, so I had that at least that going for me compared to somebody who had never seen a Shaft show. But like I was like, oh, okay, we got some metaphorical like philosophical discussion, and then we like get into the actual thing, and the rest of the episode nothing happens, but I'm used to that. Because I saw the only thing that I knew about this going in was that it was a mystery. I didn't know like what kind of mystery, but in a lot of whodunits, they spend the first part just showing you the characters and setting up the scene, not necessarily setting up the murder. And and so I was kind of used to that. I saw a mystery and I was like, oh, okay. And then I started to get clued in on like some of those hints where I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, where I was like, okay, it's a whodunit. Okay, we have these characters and we just have this small cast and this is who we're working with. And I was like, okay. So, like, for me, at the end of episode 1, I was like, yeah, nothing happened and nothing makes sense, but that's totally fine because we're not there yet. So, I think for me, it really started to congeal once you got done with both episode 1 and 2, which I felt like was basically should have just been an extended, like, single episode is how it plays itself.
Yes, I think that probably would have been a better format. Considering the last episode, I felt went for way too long.
Last episode has some pacing issues, I think, just because it was very... it wanted to finish it up in style in some way, but...
It does not feel like the half hour that it actually is.
It feels a lot longer. Yeah.
I don't think it's a half hour, is it?
It's 27 minutes, 27, 28, something like that.
No way. Okay, There's no way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I know. I had to double check after I finished it just to make sure.
Hold on.
Yeah. I mean, each episode is over 25 minutes long.
Yeah, I know they're all like 27 minutes, but this one I felt like it was like 40. I swear to God.
I know.
No.
So, but like to kind of loop back to what you said, Kyle, the fact of the matter is like I did not, not enjoy the first episode because, the whole fucking first like quote unquote philosophical discussion is all a bunch of fucking nothing. It's about nothing. It tells us nothing.
Well, I mean,
it gives us no context.
It gives us one thing. It sets up our main protagonist and how they think, which is a very much I refuse to take any opinion on anything is basically what you get by the end of that.
The last episode's 42 minutes, by the way.
Oh, is it? Okay. So it was a 40-minute episode. Okay.
What the fuck? Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was 30. All right. Well, fuck me then. I'm wrong.
Sorry.
Wow, holy shit. Yeah, no, you're right. Okay, never mind. God damn, I swear I thought it was. But yeah, like, I mean, you know, it gives us the brief setup of, you know, Protag, because I'm just going to call him Protag, because he keeps just, you know, saying, my name's not important, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
But, like, it essentially just kind of sets up, you know, his whole perspective, which, fine, great, but we kind of just get that reinforced throughout the whole series. So it's not like a revelation or anything like that. It's not like we've been handed some fucking golden key there.
No, it's I think it's just supposed to be this like interesting stylized way of opening up, being like, yo, what's happening? It's supposed to like catch your eye in that way.
Yeah, it is. And so I mean, like, again, it was a whole lot of fucking nothing, but again, I went into this knowing it was a Shaft Nisioisin thing. So, like, going in with that knowledge and watching this anyway, knowing that, you're essentially signing, like, a social contract, being like, look, I know what I'm signing up for. Like,
yeah.
If I'm going to actively, willingly do this to myself, I know what I'm getting myself into, to some degree.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I was even trying to disassociate, like, Monogatari in my head, and it was just so hard to do. Like, just with the way the show looks, and how the characters talk and all that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the fact that this is essentially just a show about talking.
Yeah,
at this point
it really
well.
is.
Because at its core, this show is about, you know, dialogue, discussions, and thought. And while not all of the dialogue or discussions or thought all make sense or are all, you know, coherent, it's still the focus nonetheless.
Yeah,
and so it is so difficult to dissociate that from Monogatari because, I mean, again, both by the same author, both trying to accomplish largely similar ways of conveying story.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, you know, I feel like trying to dissociate the two is kind of a fruitless effort.
Right.
In my perspective, anyway. Like, you know. But
I mean, this is the author that, like, Keys of Monogatari, I opened up that book, and the entire first chapter just talks about a person, but it doesn't actually tell you who they are or what they are. It just talks about them, like, around the subject. And so, like, yeah, it's going to be, like, very monologue heavy. It's going to be just this big discussion on everything, and everybody's going to talk about everything, and possibly not everybody's going to be emotional in the way that you think that they are, which is kind of evident in this one, where, like, if there's somebody that's fucking dead, like, everyone's like, yeah, no, this sucks, we should get to the bottom of it.
Again, it is very Nisioisin. I mean, like, this is the dude that made a fucking battle royale story with Juni Tyson, and it was still like at least half like flashback and dialogue and backstory. Like a small percentage of a fucking battle royale story was the actual battle royale. So like this dude, no matter what he does, is still going to find a way to insert so much just story into this, or so much just discussion.
It reminds me of
and talk.
It reminds me of there was an interview with Kevin Smith whenever they were talking to him about like what he would do if he wanted to make a superhero movie. And he was like, honestly, most of it would just be two dudes talking about shit, and then they'd be like, oh wait, we got to go save the day. But then that happens off screen, and then they come back and they just keep talking about shit. Like, and I'm like, that's kind of similar. Like if there is action, it's very short and quick in a lot of these stories that this author does.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, yeah. That's fine. Like,
well, and especially for like a whodunit murder mystery, that's most of those actually is a lot of just discussion about like who did this Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the majority of the show for sure. I just didn't expect it to go like 18 layers deep, but that's okay. It was interesting. I felt like someone had ripped a scenario out of Danganronpa or something and thrust it into an anime made by Shaft and Nisioisin.
That's fair.
That is on that level of abstract.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was just like, not really gruesome or gory, just fucking weird.
Yeah. It's like it is matter of fact in honestly like a jarring degree. Kind of like you said, Kyle, they find a dead body and they're like, well,
yeah, everybody's...
I guess, it's like, well, we can't step in the paint. We gotta do...
Yeah. Like, they find a dead body and everybody's just like, ooh, goody, a mystery. They're like all excited about that rather than the fact like, oh shit, someone actually died. Someone that we've been living with for a little while now.
Well, no. It's not. They weren't even like excited about this.
No,
like,
they were just
half
like,
of them were just like, oh god,
that's a thing.
And they were like, well, and it's that like weird sense of apathy almost that is just so.
Yeah. Although
bizarre.
I guess that was one of the major themes of the show was apathy.
Yeah, and I understand that because I mean, what this show essentially boils down to is a case study of our main character,
right?
Ultimately, because Protag is essentially surrounded by people that are so-called geniuses, whether they're a genius cook or an artist or an engineer or a psychic or fortune teller, like what the fuck ever, and the whole focus here is that he is like jealous of these people. He has this desire to be able to fixate so focusedly on one thing and do well at it,
but he's very wishy-washy about it.
He
refuses to commit.
And the fact that they continue to go back and like reinforce that, and how so many characters call him out on that directly, is very interesting to see unfold.
Mm-hmm.
And having that juxtaposed, next to this fucking weird, like ogre layers of onions kind of mystery is just it's odd. Because I mean, like, finishing up episode 7 and being like, oh god, Akane is not actually dead and she faked this whole thing, and the last thing that we hear is she said, I just did it because I wanted to eat y'all's brains, and end scene, end episode.
End episode.
And I'm like,
and I was like,
the fuck?
It could have ended it right there, and that would have encapsulated it. I would have been like, that was a show that I just watched.
But man, getting to that last episode,
that just
where
added
Protag, gets tossed into June's car, and she's like, "Hey, bro, did you actually think about this? Let's talk about how you fucked up your
calling
deductions."
Him bro the entire time, by the way,
Yep.
which I fucking loved. Like, bro, dude, bro.
He was just finally at the point too. He's like, man, I'm so smart. Like, I actually figured it out. And then suddenly he's just like, oh, like, here's all those things that you didn't think about and why you're wrong.
Yep, it's like, stuff was bugging you, but you just let it be solved anyway because you just wanted it done with.
Right.
Let's talk about how fucking sloppy you were, dude.
Yeah.
You're not a genius. You're not that great at this. You gotta focus more if you actually want to be good at this.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I have been called out yet again. I did not skip school so I could be attacked. And it's just so interesting to see, like, maybe the last 2 minutes of the episode, he's finally like, you know what? They're all right. I am really fucking jealous of Tomo. I don't want to be in her shadow. I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to get out of her shadow. And then 5 seconds. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to go give her magazine. It's fine.
No. Well, but that was his step towards progression. because he was refusing to accept. Once again, he was being apathetic. He was refusing to accept that he loves her. And so that was his way of turning around and being like, okay, no, yeah, I should actually do something. I can't just pretend like nothing happened.
Yeah, I guess kind of in a weird scenario. I actually agree with Kyle on this one.
Fine.
That's kind of the vibe I got too.
Yeah. Because
you're not entirely wrong though.
You even hear him like breathe through his teeth a little bit, and he's like, "Damn it, okay, yeah, I got to do this." Like, so that's what I got out of that ending part there. Instead of a return to apathy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well. So I mean, like, I'm not saying that he goes back to square one, but it is still cyclical in nature. Like, he is kind of back to square one, but in like an Ouroboros sort of sense. He's kind of ate his own tail, but he's like maybe beefed up a little bit from it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So
I still feel like it was his way of moving towards breaking that cycle.
No, I'm saying he's staying in the cycle, but is moving.
Yeah, you guys are saying the same thing.
He has developed.
I'm
not disagreeing with you, bro. Are you going to tell me I'm wrong,
bro?
Are you going to tell me I'm wrong, bro?
Oh my god.
No, and I kind of liked that some of the other side characters reinforced that idea of like being jealous of Suffice, being jealous of Genius, because like you had the owner of the island that tried to play tricks on them because it was her only way of like feeling superior, and then you have the psychic that constantly made fun of our main character but also made fun of a lot of the other characters because she knew everything that was going on. She can fucking read minds, and even then she's like, I'm not gonna do anything about it though. You should suffer.
Or the fucking artist who came up with the idea to switch places with the academic so they could, allegedly play a prank on everyone on the island, except, teehee, this is actually a way for me to kill you and then take your life and become a new person.
Right.
Teehee.
It was interesting that, like...
Ain't I a stinker?
In the car, whenever they explain it, they're just like, what was she really? Because she wasn't a genius artist and she wasn't a genius scientist, so what was he? And they're like, she's a genius mimicry. And I'm like, fucking what?
Yeah, man, like,
I don't know. That's when I realized, like, I'm just so many layers in at this point.
Okay,
I was like,
so, like, yeah.
Wow.
For me, because I'm such shit at mysteries, I always do bad. But for me, I was really proud of myself because there was a few things that I caught on to and was actually able to call a little bit early as far as the, like, actual mystery goes. Which is like,
cool.
Okay. Like, green-haired asshole, he's definitely somebody that wanted the artist dead, quote unquote.
Yeah, I figured that
in the original mystery. And then I picked up on like a couple of other things, like the fact that there was somebody on this island that was not a part of a main cast because none of them could actually like have done it after Akane has been killed. And so I was like, okay, well, obviously either somebody's alive and running around rampant, or they literally like hired a killer and he just came by boat and started killing people.
Yeah, I kind of figured she was still alive, like in some capacity. So,
and I will say, for the most part, that original mystery still holds up. I'm a little sus on, hey, let's stand up a dead body and do a parkour kick off of it in order to get out of this prison cell. I'm a little sus on that.
The Rigor Parkourtis.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The Rigor Parkourtis.
I cannot believe you just said that.
That's the episode title, boys.
It has to be.
Okay. You know what? You earned it. I couldn't have thought of that in a million years. Good job.
Oh, fuck. But then there's other things where it's like, well, of course, they would have had to do it this way. And I'm like, no, they fucking wouldn't. A normal human being wouldn't have done that.
and see, that's the thing. That's what it all ultimately boils down to. Like, the way that they have presented it, like, everything obviously, like it all checks out. And, like, if you look at the string of events that have been laid out by the end of the last episode, you can kind of look at that and say, like, okay, I mean, yeah, if that is how all the puzzle pieces fit together, then yeah, that works.
Right.
But it's still ultimately fucking nonsense.
Well,
an artist looks to switch places with a academic because she wants to be someone else, but she might have been someone else beforehand, and we have no fucking idea who or what she actually is, and this is such a convoluted way of doing this. But even from the start, we have this, a daughter of the Akagami, conglomerate who is actually taking the place of her maid to do like a fun, quirky prank, and everything else here is structured in such just a weird,
and then every conversation
way.
With Teruko is she lies. Literally everything she says is totally made up, and then everybody else is just like, no, she never speaks. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so like everything fucking boils down to like, while everything does check out, and you can follow the line to see like how it works, it is all fucking nonsense.
Right.
Like it is absurd, and it is silly how all of this is even structured and played out. Because I mean, like, at the end, Protag is asking June, like, but why? Like, why are they even fucking doing this? And June essentially says, like, because? Like, does it matter? Like, who cares, dude? They just did. Right. Maybe they wanted to do this. Maybe they want to do that. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, and in defense of the show, like, it very much is writing itself to be like, this show is nonsense. And then once you get to the end, they're like, look, it was nonsense. And that's kind of the point. So I understand
and that's
where
what I'm saying. I'm not
from.
saying it's a... I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I'm just
what
saying,
I wanted to
like,
all three of us are not saying it's a bad thing. That's literally what the show is doing.
Yeah, I mean, it does what it says on the tin.
Right.
Like, our protagonist is the fucking bearer of nonsense.
Although,
and boy fucking howdy, does he bring it and dish it.
I will say that as somebody who like grew up with Case Closed, I thought it was neat that you had this mystery that you could figure out and all this other shit. But I felt like it was like two separate things. It was 1 through 7 was a mystery, and then episode 8 was an episode of Scooby-Doo. Because it's like 1 through 7, you can like put the clues together and genuinely get the idea of like who is the person in the whodunit. But then episode 8 is like, then you pull off the mask and they're like, it was the gardener the whole time. And I'm like, fucking what? Because every episode of Scooby-Doo, there's no fucking telling who's underneath that mask. They just make it up as they go. They're like, it was my lawyer from 20 years ago. Why is he here?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I
don't know. I can see why people would not like this show. It's pretty clear. It's pretty evident. Like,
I can clearly see why people would not enjoy the show, but I personally thought it was fun, especially if you're a fan of like Shaft and Nisioisin. I'm gonna get that wrong.
You're banned from saying that.
I'm gonna get it wrong.
Because I mean, like, let's. Like, I'm not going to mince words or anything here. Like, if you're not really initiated in this or like a fan of this work or this kind of style that Shaft and Nisioisin does, like, yeah, it comes off as pretentious. And honestly, it kind of is pretentious.
It is.
It's very up. It's very up its own ass. And so, like, a lot of that is kind of your mileage may vary. Because if you're into that stuff, then it's just, no. Like, great snack, yummy, give me more, please.
Right.
But, like, if you are not into this, oh god, this is going to be the most off-putting shit on the planet. Like, because I was watching this with Morgan, and I watched the first episode, and she was like, okay. And I was like, so I might watch the rest of this in the office. I might, watch the rest of this in the living room. She's like, oh yeah, you can put up in the living room. I'm not really going to pay that much attention, but I'll watch it. It's pretty. I am really not invested at all in the story. And I'm like, yeah, I get you there. That's a mood.
No, but it is true, though, that, like, if you're not used to this writing style, it's going to be really off-putting. And if you're not used to this type of animation where, like, literally everything is metaphorical and weird and wonky, it's like avant-garde, like French New Wave, and it in anime form. And so it's just so strange that, like, sometimes I think that in itself, the animation may be off-putting to some people.
I can already hear somebody complaining about, like, how the staircase isn't
Isn't engineered properly?
Yes.
I just saw that and I was like, man, Nisioisin really does fucking love his spiral staircase.
I know, that's what I was thinking too. He loves staircases.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I
it's
don't know.
Shaft.
Maybe
I was gonna say, yeah, maybe
that's a
Shaft.
Shimbo thing. You know,
Yeah.
maybe that's his thing. I don't know. I mean, I like staircases
I don't
too,
know, man.
so I don't know.
But I guess at the end, like, I enjoyed Zaregoto. It was a whole lot of fucking nonsense. It was very pretty to watch. Some of the characters were okay.
I think this is
like,
for as much of a mystery as this is, it is odd to say that the characters in a character-driven show are not the most interesting. But I guess it's.
I mean, like,
it's
some of the characters are deeply interesting.
They have
but
interesting components to them, but as far as how they're written, they're not really. No one's really human. Everyone's a character.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the fact that, like, the protagonist is basically engineered to be as fucking uninteresting as possible throughout the whole thing is very impressive. And, you know, because this whole thing, I was like, God, I don't want to fucking hear you open your mouth anymore. Like, can we please proceed? But then, you know, I say that and I sit and I think and I'm like, but again, that's the fucking point. So, like, good on you. That's, you know, that's
when literally everyone in the show is like, you're a piece of shit. Stop. It's kind of like in that way, like Scott Pilgrim the novels versus Scott Pilgrim the movie, where it's like in Scott Pilgrim the movie, Scott Pilgrim's just a piece of shit, and everyone just tells him that he is, and that's the entire movie.
Yeah, the novels Scott Pilgrim, you know, all the long spanning series by George R.R. Martin, the Scott Pilgrim novels.
They're graphic novels, okay? Leave me alone.
Your chain.
Stop the bullying.
But yeah, I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely, I guess, a person that enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I don't really feel any obligation to watch it again anytime soon.
I'm not going to.
No, yeah.
Like, really, like, I feel like I've gotten everything I could get out of it. And
in fact,
yeah.
I feel like even because I was thinking about this, I was like, I love mysteries, and about half of my family loves mysteries, and they'll watch it even if they don't even know what anime is. They're like, all right, sit me down, let's do this. But like this one, like after episode 8, I'm just like, man, they probably wouldn't even be interested in this.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Like, I enjoyed this. I thought it was interesting, and I honestly enjoyed it more from an aesthetic viewpoint than like the story in and of itself. But I don't look at this and say, you know, I don't think about Zaregoto and think I would recommend this to someone, because I don't really think I would.
I wouldn't know who to recommend it to.
Yeah,
that's the thing, because like you have
acquired taste.
That is such a fucking like sniffing wine up your own ass way to phrase that. Like, you are goddamn huffing the bouquet of your fucking 1800s vintage champagne. Like, but like I get what you mean.
No, I think your metaphor's better. We should just stick with that one.
like I would really only recommend this to someone if I knew that they liked, say, Monogatari and such, and they hadn't watched this before.
Yeah.
Because I'd probably just say, I didn't even know this existed until really recently. You might want to check this out if you're looking for more Monogatari adjacent shit. That's about it. I really wouldn't look at pretty much anyone else that's an anime fan outside of like this circle of us here. I wouldn't look at any of my other friends that watch anime and be like, you should watch this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just such a niche audience, I feel like.
Yeah. Like, and again, it's not bad. It's just I literally don't know who I would recommend this to unless I already knew they were going to like it specifically.
Yeah.
So, a bit... Yeah, it's just a weird one.
It's fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. But it's fun nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun sense.
Fun.
That was a bad one. I'm cut that and cut me and cut my throat.
And cut your life into pieces?
cut your head off by the shoulders? Like,
make me a little fruit tort.
Also, why the shoulders? They never
they,
really...
They explained that, Kyle.
Okay, they do, but it's fucking dumb. So why the shoulder?
Because they needed to use it as a ladder.
Yeah.
They literally explained that.
Yep.
Because
like the
Parkour
the
rigor mortis?
Yeah, the Rigor
What was it?
Parkourtis.
Rigor Parkourtis? What was it, Zach?
Rigor Parkourtis.
Rigor Parkourtis. Okay.
Yeah. So they explained that, Kyle.
I know, but it's just so strange because you have to try harder to get through a shoulder.
But look.
Hold on. Okay, like, are you nitpicking of all things in this fucking show? Yeah. Cutting it off at the shoulders and not the neck? And maybe not,
anything
I don't know,
else
the
that
fucking
happened?
Dining room that looks like a goddamn fucking nucleus of the cell. Like, what the fuck?
And what about like the things that spin around when they're all in the room, but when somebody gets up, they like create a platform to walk across the room?
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's so many other things to debunk, and that's what you pick.
Obviously, there was a genius engineer that an architect that came by the island. That's easy. We can understand that. We can explain that. But why the shoulders?
You're gonna nitpick the shoulders when there's a decontamination pod or a series of...
Nobody even really explained what that's for.
For the maid staff, there's just decontamination pods. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, I got nothing else. That was it. That was my last thing.
We have somehow gone on this show for 40 minutes, and I don't understand how we got to this point. This has not felt like 40 minutes. This felt like it's been 10 minutes.
It's like the last episode, but except
in reverse.
Yeah.
In reverse, yeah. Anything else you guys want to say?
Fuck?
No,
I don't have anything.
No, there's nothing else to say about this.
It's nonsense.
There's not. We can talk about it, but it's nothing.
I mean, that's literally what the show was about, though.
Yeah, it's a.
We're literally just being meta right now. We're doing exactly what the show was doing the whole time.
We gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta stop. Okay, let's stop. Stop.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening. As always, you can find all our podcasts, articles, videos, etc. at thebacklogers.com. Our intro-outro song is The Bear by Shell in the Pit, who you can find on Spotify as well as Bandcamp. And we'd love to hear from you all either in the comments on our site or any feedback you want to leave us on whatever podcast platform you like. iTunes, Soundcloud, or just meet us on an island full of geniuses and pretend to be another person for a week. For kicks. And as always, we're on Twitter at _backloggers, so pull up a send log and stop by for a bit.